Good evening, West Texas. All the way from Lubbock to Amarillo, Wichita Falls, Abilene, Midland, Odessa, and all of those that listen to the Chad Hasty Show online around the world. I'm Steve Evans in this evening to bring you some tough news. I'm in Chad's chair in studio. It's not normal for me. I'm usually at the Southwest studio, but in Chad's chair this evening, joined by Ken Corbin. And we bring you the news of Chad's passing. If you haven't heard, it was untimely. And this will be, folks, one of the toughest shows we've ever done. But he would want us to be live. He'd want us to be live. This is a tribute to Chad Hasty. And there's going to be a lot of folks joining us this evening, throughout the evening by phone.
And if you'd like to join us by text message.
Absolutely.
806-680-2790. Let us know your thoughts, about Chad Hasty. If you've got a story you want to relay, please do. Now, we did a small segment during Clay and Buck today, and basically because there was a lot of stupid rumors that were floating around, and we have talked with the family, confirmed that, that Chad basically went to sleep last night, and he didn't wake up this morning.
Peacefully, the way to go.
Peacefully, just, you don't want, I guess if you're going to go, that's how you want it, but nobody wants, Chad was a young man. Chad was 43 years old, and he was a big part of our family.
So, again, 806-680-2790. We will do our best. We expect to get flooded with text, and they're all appreciative. We read every single one of them. Chad had a wonderful audience that we've cultivated over the years. He has trusted Ken and I on numerous occasions with that audience. And so if you'd like to send a message, please do. We do have a pre-recorded statement from the KFYO general manager that we would like to play for you. Yeah. So, Nick, if you'll fire that off for us.
This is Dan Endem, president of Town Square Media Lubbock. We are stunned and heartbroken to learn of the death of our beloved KFYO family member, Chad Hasty. Chad passed peacefully in his sleep early this morning. Chad was not only a brilliant on-air host, but an even better husband, father, and friend. Our deepest condolences go out to Jennifer, his wife of 15 years, and to his baby girl, Ava. It's impossible to imagine not seeing his welcoming presence in the halls of Town Square Media Lubbock. Please keep Jennifer and Ava in your prayers.
And if you would like to, we gave you the text line, 806-680-2790. And if you would like to call in, 806-699-5396. If we're in the listening area and want to give us your thoughts, you're more than welcome. This is one of those. As Chad would say, this is open line.
Oh, it is an open line show today. So, and again, the other number, 1-800-687-0790, if you'd like to send it. Call in on that 800 number. So we're going to get to the big elephant in the room first. I'm going to knock it right out of the park. What's next? We don't know. We don't know what's next. Ken and I are, everybody right now is fluid. We are going to continue. There'll be a best of tomorrow night. Chad will have, no, wait a minute. You're going to be live. Ken Corbin is,
I think we got,
my apologies.
More
Ken
people
Corbin is,
that couldn't be on today that told us they wanted to be on tomorrow.
Ken Corbin will be live, and he'll have a few guests. Carl Tepper is going to take the show on Monday.
To State Representative Tepper.
Tepper, and then we'll see where it goes after that.
And basically, I'm sure Chad's wishes would be that we continue to have live, local, regional Texas news in this time slot. That is the goal. That is the plan.
That's our goal, and we're going to fight for that.
And I have already been, had the discussion started about that being that we preserving, this time for you, the listener, because we know that this is an important time in the state, country, and you want to have the opportunity to express your opinion. You want to hear from the local and statewide lawmakers, and this show in this time slot, is unique in Texas because there's not that many right now that are. And this network the four markets that we're currently in is as important as any single radio station in the state. We reach huge numbers of people, and we're going to plan on continuing that, continuing Chad's legacy.
806-680-2790, that text line. Some text starting to pour in, 891. We're in shock. I appreciate you sending a message. 445, always enjoyed listening to Chad. I've listened to him since he was... Let me open that up. It needs to be. I got it squelched over there. I've been listening to him since he was with Paul Arbeen.
Well, he did.
Yeah,
right. Paul Ard did some things with us on KFYO, but Chad got his start on the Williams and Hyde show with Ryan Hyde, and I have talked with Ryan several times today, and he's devastated, as the rest of us are, and. The thing is, with all of us that knew Chad, it's hard to express because Chad touched us all. And Ryan is going to come on sometime in the 6 o'clock hour tonight and talk to us about Chad. And he has a lot of recollections. And there's been several elected officials that have reached out to us that want to talk about Chad because Chad, his interviews. He was fair. He was tough. He didn't shy away from hard questions, but Chad did not do gotcha type interviews. And so as we go on, I think a lot of these elected officials want to pay their respects to Chad, and in no better way than to talk about Chad in front of his audience. I think Chad would appreciate that, and he, be smiling knowing that that's how we were going to honor him is letting people tell how much Chad had, meant to him. And then, because he did, there's people, all across the state, because Chad, he was quoted many times in statewide press, whether it be the Quorum Report, the Texan, Dallas Morning News, Chronicle, and he was even mentioned several times by the Washington Post, New York Times. So Chad's reach, and because of his interview style, he would get these elected officials talking and about things that they wouldn't tell any other interviewer, but Chad could get it out of them, and that's one of the things. And he would do it in a respectful manner and allow them to explain themselves. Which sometimes, instead of looking for a soundbite, Chad wasn't looking for sound bites. He was looking for the truth.
Couple more texts. 599. I knew Chad for over 10 years. He was a coworker and a friend. We didn't agree politically, and we still respected each other. On behalf of Town Square Media, West Texas Engineering, we would like to express our condolences to the family. Thanks for the talks and your friendship. I'll miss you, from Ben out of Regional Engineering. Let's see. Doug in Brownfield. I've always enjoyed listening to Chad. He made my day go better. The friends of Chad are full of sorrow. Right. Let's see. Just got off work. What happened to Chad? Chad is no longer with us, Rob, but thanks for listening. He has passed. Let's see. 544. I have been a longtime listener, follower Chad here from California, and have called in and texted him many times. I was stunned and saddened to hear of his sudden passing. My heart breaks for his wife and child and his entire family. We will miss him greatly. Thanks for listening. Get to a couple more. 939, lived in Houston area for a long time, listening to Michael Berry, moved to Lubbock, found Chad, and became a big fan. Rest in peace, Mr. Hasty. 371, Michelle from Southwest Ohio. He was my BFF in the evening while I worked. Been with him since 2020, and he got me through a very difficult time.
And you mentioned Michael Berry. We have Michael Berry on in the morning. We do the evening. He does two different types of shows. He does a Texas regional show that we run 8:30 to 11, and then he has a show that we runs on a national level that we run at night from 10 p.m. to midnight. And we've been in contact with Michael Berry, and he's going to do a tribute tomorrow for Chad on his show in the morning.
Let's see. Got one or two more texts before we go to break. Been an avid listener of Chad, going all the way back to when he did his morning show on KFYO. I got to know him personally. We attended the same church life group several years ago. He was entertaining on the radio, but an even better person. Prayers for his family. Thank you for that. Let's see.
I met Chad many years ago at the Hub City Barbecue. That's a good place to meet him. He was a competitor. He was a judge. He personally dropped by to congratulate me on winning first place on the Cook's Choice Award. He was good for a cigar and a fine whiskey. Absolutely. 733 Mad Eddie 2.0 in Abilene. My condolences to all who knew Chad and to all the listeners. Always appreciate how Chad kept us informed about local West Texas issues with his common sense approach. Fly Freebird. Missed one or two more here before we go to the break. I remember working with Chad 10 years ago. I was working with Jody Arrington's first campaign for Congress. I was a 22-year-old kid, had just graduated from tech, and Chad treated me like a professional. He always treated me like a professional. He was kind. I'm praying hard for his wife and sweet baby. I'm listening to his show live from D.C. right now. Amber, thanks for the text, Amber. One more and we'll go to break. So sad that he has gone. Did Chad perhaps have a favorite charity where a memorial fund can be set up? I'm sure many listeners would want to contribute. We will have all of that.
We'll have all that information. It's rather, sudden, for today, but we have been in discussions and talked, with his wife Jennifer, his father-in-law Johnny, and his dad Mike. And once a lot of these details get worked out, we will most definitely pass it on to you.
We'll take the break, 806-680-2790. If you'd like to send us a message, we'll do our best to get to it. Chad Hasty Show. Steve Evans, Ken Corbin, hanging out with you on this very, very special edition of the Chad Hasty Show. Back in a moment.
Soldiers passing by, listening to the wind of change.
The Chad Hasty Show can be heard all over West Texas. Weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m. Tune into News Talk 95.1 and 790 KFYO in Lubbock. News Talk 940 in Amarillo. News Talk 94.7 and 1470 KYYW in Abilene. And in Wichita Falls on News Talk 96.3 and 1290. The Chad Hasty Show. Make it a part of your drive home. Weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m.
When I'm driving, I look twice for motorcycles.
I look twice because motorcycles are easy to miss.
I look twice just in case a motorcycle's in my blind spot.
I look twice at intersections and before I turn left.
I look twice because I want to know for sure.
I look twice for motorcycles because I don't want to hurt anyone.
Look twice for motorcycles. There's a life riding on it. A message from Texas Department of Transportation.
Saving you money, I'm Hillary Barsky. If you're feeling squeezed at the grocery store, you might want to consider making the switch to store brands. Store brands are also known as private labels and are meant to compete with name brand goods. Some examples of store brands include Costco's Kirkland Signature, Walmart's Great Value, Whole Foods 365, among other labels. Now, store brands are typically cheaper than name brand products, and even if the price is just a few cents less, it can add up in the long run, according to Consumer Reports. In addition, Consumer Reports found that shoppers can save more than 60% when they buy store brand ketchup rather than the name brand. They also found the biggest savings were at Costco, Aldi, and Walmart, all about 50% less than the store brand on average, while Whole Foods had the least savings. And according to Taste, many store brands taste just as good and sometimes even better than the name brand, according to Consumer Reports' test of 70 products across different categories. Saving you money, Hillary Barsky, Fox News.
Celebrating 98 years of broadcasting, this is KFYO.
Hey, welcome back to a very, very special edition of the Chad Hasty Show, a memorial edition. Steve Evans.
Very sad edition.
Very sad edition. Steve Evans, Ken Corbin, on the air with you this evening, 806-680-2790, the number if you'd like to send us a message. You're welcome to call in. We've got a caller.
And so those of you who are just tuning in, the news today is Chad Hasty passed away this morning. And he passed away.
Don't say that too many more times. I don't know if I can take it anymore.
I know, but we got turnover,
turnover
of audience. We still got to do radio.
We got to tell you. I know.
But that's it's a sad day for all of us that knew and loved Chad, and those of us up here at Town Square KFYO.
We got our first special caller is your son, Alan Corbin. Helped produce the show.
Yes,
was a board op. Alan, are you with us?
The different iterations of the show. Alan was able to to work with Chad very closely.
Good evening, Alan. How are you?
Just saddened and heartbroken by the loss of our friend and colleague, Chad Hasty. I worked with Chad from 2006 to 2016. I produced every iteration of the Chad Hasty show except for the 5 to 7 time slots. But, Chad was a pro's pro. He loved to have fun, too. I want to share a little story about him, though, that's going to add a little bit of laughter, too, because this is the kind of, the kind of guy Chad was. Chad would, I don't know if you remember David Miller and the city council getting mad about Chippendales, and he photoshopped
David Miller being former Lubbock mayor. He photoshopped David Miller's head on top of one of the Chippendales models and used it for promo material for his show, and it got viral, as you could say, as viral as 2006 Facebook can get. And it was just really funny because he had David Miller sign the picture for him when he was running for re-election 2 years later. That's the kind of guy Chad was, because he might go after you a little bit, but people would always think he was a fair interviewer and knew he was doing things in good fun and not being mean-spirited. And Chad, Chad's gonna be missed. I'm going to add to that story real quick, Al. About so we were doing our election show, and the news guy that was here, Rex Andrew, and he went to David Miller's, watch party, and because he was with KFYO, he got thrown out. And so Chad dubbed Rex, Chad's humor, Chad dubbed him the sidewalk warrior. And because Rex stood on the sidewalk and tried to interview people as they were coming and going, because it was a sidewalk's a public walkway, they couldn't throw him off there, but they kept him out of the house for the party. But that was pretty funny. So Chad was good with nicknames too. So that Rex was a sidewalk warrior according to Chad.
Yeah, and his impressions of politicos and local figures as well were second to none. But he did a lot of great things for this community. You can tell from the outpouring support from just not Lubbock, but from all over the state to, you have lots of congressmen reaching out on Twitter X, the governor, lieutenant governor, Speaker Burrows. Everybody who had an encounter with Chad or interviewed with Chad, reaching out and talking about just how saddening this is, not because he was a great talk show host, but he was a good person too. And so, we're going to feel that here in Dallas. Certainly everybody in Lubbock will feel that. And I just, my thoughts and prayers and love go out to Chad, Jennifer, and his family.
Well, I appreciate you calling in today. And, there's many people that worked with Chad that I think feel the same way you do. Or I think later on, after probably about 5:45 or so, we'll probably have Chad's producer on the 5 to 7 that, when after you left was, we'll have Jody Spires on, hopefully.
I'm sure Jody has a few stories to share as well. That I'm looking forward to hear.
Jody not only has a few stories, but Jody was a collector of audio samples, and so Jody, we're not going to get them tonight, but at some point, Jody's got some hilarious audio. So I'm hoping that he brings that out of the archives and we get to hear that down the road.
I tasked Chad here on our texter. Sorry about that. Asked Nick to get Chad doing Trump. So that's going to be fun. Chad did a great Trump.
Oh, he had a great Trump impersonation.
And there's even at times Chad would come in wearing a Trump style wig, doing the Trump impersonations that were just priceless. So, but Alan, I think that's appreciate you calling in, and we'll probably have more people on later on, and we're going to be doing this again tomorrow, talking about Chad, and we'll see you soon.
Yeah. Thank you, Steve. Love you, Dad.
Thanks, Alan.
All right, bye.
So I've got my youngest daughter texting in and said, you got to tell the Barbie story. And we're going to hit a break before I get it all out. But the Barbie story. So Chad, a lot of you remember in the local KFYO market, Chad did as part of the Chad Hasty show, he did a Saturday edition of the Chad Hasty show. I don't remember, they just called the Saturday edition, but he had somebody in with him. I forget who his co-host was at the time. You might remember, but they were talking about a particular Barbie. and making fun of it. It was like Ghetto Barbie or something like that. And
some Matt Martin or McDermott.
It was
I can't remember.
Way before that. He had a liberal friend that he brought in sometimes that they would argue. Chris was on with him. Yes. So they're talking about these Barbies, and I'm in my garage and I'm cleaning up, and I've got his Saturday show going, and they riding bicycles and just happened to hear this Barbie thing. And they decide that Chad Hasty hates Barbies. I mean, this became a thing so much that we had T-shirts printed up. Chad Hasty hates Barbies, had his picture on it, and we did a big fundraiser golf tournament. I can't remember if it was the Lubbock County Republican Party or whatever. And Chad and I went out and played golf, and the girls were out there on golf carts and helping with drinks and things, and they come by and they have these Chad Hasty hates Barbie T-shirts on. It's hilarious. We've got pictures of it somewhere, but I've never seen it, and I just played into it. It went on for 6-8 months at least. Somebody they just picked that up, and they were convinced that Chad Hasty hated Barbie dolls. And I'm not sure Chad actually got it, but he rolled with it. You know, it was funny, and we got a lot of mileage out of it. Before we go to the break, 778 says hard to hear this. Was just listening to him this week, and now find out that he's gone. Feels like when Rush passed. It's our local Rush Limbaugh for sure. I'm saddened and shocked, and will always remember him. Rest in peace. Chad Hasty was a patriot and generally a good man. I live in Austin, but interact with him a lot on campaigns and listen to his show on a regular basis. I'll miss his humor and authentic interviews. This loss will be reverberated statewide for years. Praying for his wife and daughter. Thanks, Travis. Good to hear from you. 831, I've been listening to Chad for a while and always learned so much from him. I am still in shock. 752, I listened to him since I was 21. I'm 30 now. I like to think his political opinions and opinions on how to just be a good man. Never met him, always wanted to. Time for news and weather. 806-680-2790. Steve Evans, Ken Corbin in studio this evening on a very special edition of Chad Hasty. Back in a moment.
Call in to the Chad Hasty Show at 1-800-687-0790. The Chad Hasty Show, broadcasting on the Texas Town Square Media Network.
How serious is youth vaping? Irreversible lung damage serious. 1 in 10 kids vape serious, which warrants a serious conversation from a serious parental figure like yourself. Not the seriously know-it-all sports dad or the seriously smart podcaster. It requires a serious conversation that is best had by you. No, seriously, the best person to talk to your child about vaping is you. To start the conversation, visit talkaboutvaping.org. Brought to you by the American Lung Association and the Ad Council.
Where 28 kids and counselors died in a flash flood last year says it'll stay closed this summer. Camp Mystic says more than 800 girls wanted to return, but they say they want to remove any doubt they heard concerns from grieving families. Governor Greg Abbott says the Department of State Health Services and Texas Rangers are still investigating. Some parts of Texas are dealing with another day of severe weather. National Weather Service says some parts of the Hill Country and I-35 corridor could see up to 6 inches of rain through Friday night. Local, state, and federal law enforcement say they're already working together ahead of the World Cup coming to Texas this summer. They say they've already arrested more than 130 people for drug and violent crimes. A judge could decide the future of Texas hemp rules by the end of the week. Lawyers for farmers say the Department of State Health Services overstepped its authority. The state says regulators are not banning hemp, they're just clarifying how it should be measured. The Supreme Court ruling on redistricting could make it easier for Texas to follow Louisiana. Texas GOP had already passed a resolution urging the governor to order new districts. With your Texas News headlines, I'm Alan Skaya.
Looking to add a compact excavator to your fleet? The Hitachi ZX35 from Masco Equipment is in stock and ready to go to work. Right now, get this powerful and versatile mini excavator for as low as $39.9, including a 12-inch bucket, 2-year 2,000-hour factory warranty, and 0% interest for 48 months. But don't wait. This offer ends April 30th, subject to credit approval. Visit ASCOEQ.com to learn more. ASCO Equipment and Hitachi, built to perform, backed by the team you trust.
Josh Vining from Greystone Roofing here to tell you, you can keep your insurance check and still get a brand new roof.
We offer in-house financing that can cover 100% of your roof. Low rates, no hard credit check, and no income verification.
So you can use that insurance money to pay off debt, invest, or just keep it in the bank.
Call Greystone Roofing, licensed, local, and family owned.
Visit greystone-roofing.com.
Licensed, local, and family owned. The best roofs come from Greystone.
In Lubbock, South Lake's weather forecast, temperatures are falling overnight tonight in the mid-40s and a 90% chance for rain to continue right into Friday morning. On Friday, the temperature is just around 50 degrees, a continued chance for rain over 80%. And then the rain chances decrease later this evening. The weather brought to you by Sonic and the new Sonic Fruit. I'm meteorologist Ron Roberts on Lubbock's official weather station, News Talk KFYO.
Financial news on KFYO.
I'm Dan Loney with Your Money Now. A strong day for Wall Street with record closes for the NASDAQ and the S&P 500. The Dow was up 790 points, ending the session at 49,652. NASDAQ added 219 points. The S&P 500 picked up 72. The S&P closing above 7,200 for the first time, and it was its best month since 2020. Alphabet shares surged again on Thursday, up 10% on the day, and that pushed Google to its best month since 2004, the year that the company went public. The tech giant beat analyst projections for revenue in Q1. The U.S. Senate unanimously passed a rule on Thursday that would bar senators from trading on prediction markets effective immediately. The move comes as there is a rising worry about insider trading on these types of platforms as well as event contracts. Kalshi said last week that it suspended and fined one Senate candidate and two from the House of Representatives for insider trading on their own campaigns. Once again, Wall Street stocks are higher. That's Your Money Now.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along. Which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
ZipRecruiter.
Hi, this is Gordon Deal. Friday on This Morning, America's First News. How has the landscape changed for the midterm elections after the Supreme Court's decision about the use of race in drawing congressional maps? Plus, so much for a trip to the movies being a cheap date. At least one theater is now charging $50 for a ticket to see the most popular films. And the roadmap for people who see retirement on the horizon. Friday on This Morning, America's First News.
Weekday mornings at 5 on News Talk 95.1 and 790 KFYO.
The news and talk of West Texas. News Talk 95.1 and 790 KFYO.
Don't forget about Chad. Find Chad on social media at Chad Hasty Radio on X and Instagram. It's the Chad Hasty Show.
Hey, welcome back to the Chad Hasty Show. I don't hear myself, Nick. Got me there? All right, welcome back to the Chad Hasty Show. 806-680-2790. This very, very special edition, a tribute
a Memorial Edition. Steve Evans, Ken Corbin with you. There is no better person to join us this evening to pay tribute to Chad Hasty than Jody Smyers. Jody's on the phone with us. Good evening, my friend. How are you?
Hey, Steve. I'm doing all right. How are you, man?
Well,
hello, Jody.
About as good as you are, my friend.
Oh, hey, Ken. Tough day, isn't it?
It has been, yes. And we reached out to you earlier and wanted to make sure that you were aware instead of having to find out on Facebook. We made several calls and wanted to make sure that you were one we talked to immediately when we had a chance.
And I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. Doggone. You hate to find out news like that, but you sure don't want to see it on the internet or something. And I appreciate you guys as friends and co-workers hollered at me.
So, Jody, we're telling stories. So, I'm going to ask. You were Chad's producer for how many years?
Right at 7 years. I think it might have been 2 today. Pretty close.
And so you got to have, and I talked about earlier, we know you got some audio in the archives. Maybe we'll get to hear one day, but you gotta have a great story for us.
Oh man, there's so many stories. The Chad was just such a card and such an entertainer.
Well, make sure that what you tell is radio friendly, okay?
Well, that's a given. So I'll have to cut out about 50% of what I was going to say. But no, Chad, I was just thinking I would tell people about Chad's show before I ever worked up there. And I listened to the show a lot. I was a long-time listener. And my cousin and I were leaving Lubbock for Big Bend National Park one time long ago. And I had Chad on the radio, and my cousin Curtis said, well, who is this guy? He's great. And I said, yeah, that's Chad Hasty, man. He's a local dude. And I told him then he's a national quality talent. And he was really impressed. And anyway, we listened to him as far as we could going down the road. And Curtis got to meet Chad later on. But, it just goes to show what a talent Chad was. And I don't know. It's just, I tell people all the time, the guy was on his way to a national show, and he had that quality, and he had that personality to get it there.
Well, you got that right. He would. Yeah. Chad would have been a national. He would have rivaled a Rush Limbaugh one day. He was on.
Yeah, and Chad would be the first one to tell you. He said, "Nobody can ever match Rush," but he'd be right there below him. And speaking of Rush, when Rush passed, and Chad and I, we had just finished the show, and that was a huge shock, and it was to both of us like losing a brother, and this is too. This is that same feeling.
Yeah.
But Chad was, I can say a lot of stuff about him, but he was a great professional show host. He was a great impressionist.
No.
And his impression of Bill Clinton, oh my gosh, it was classic.
Clinton and Trump, he had both those guys down. If you find audio on that, you're gonna have to email me, Jody, so we can.
Yeah, when I get home, I'm gonna have to see what I can track down, because I'm sure I've got a good bit of that stuff. But he's just an entertainer. But he.
Well, Jody, we understand. Chad's goal. He wanted to be informative and he wanted to be entertaining at the same time. He took that from Rush, and he basically said, if you're not entertaining, doesn't matter how informative you are. And Chad took that to heart.
Yes, he did. He sure did, and he moved it forward. And he did that every day. That wasn't just on occasion. He walked into the show every morning with that goal in mind. And working with him was just a ball. We had a great time, and it was always fun. And he's a great friend. He's going to be dearly missed by all of his friends like us and his family. but he's going to be missed by a lot of people in Lubbock and just Texas, that listen to him all the time.
Oh, the hole in the vacuum that is going to happen.
So, Jody, before we let you go, give us an ooh-ee. Jody did that on a couple of my commercials. He'd go in and do that.
Oh, man. Well,
Chad and I always laughed about that. He said, man, why'd you get Jody to do that? I said, because it sounded good. He just shake his head.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry I can't stay on long.
No,
I'd love to
right.
visit with you guys some more. But I know y'all are doing a great job, and I will listen to it later. And I appreciate y'all putting something together this evening.
Thank you so much.
He deserves it.
Thank you so much, my friend. That's Jody Smyers, the voice of Jody Smyers, one of Chad's former producers. Thanks so much for calling in, Jody. A couple texts we could get to. 773 says, thank you for coming in today. I know this must be one of the more difficult shows you'll do.
It is a difficult show.
I've done two difficult ones. This is the worst. When I lost Mallory Miller on our Sunday show, right. That first show back without him was really hard. This is harder, but we know. We Ken and I talked this morning, and Chad was sick. The listeners know I've been on all week. Ken was on last night. We already had plans to back him up through the week because he was not feeling good. He was sick, and so we already had planned, but we were going to kind of continue those, and I wanted to go live. Ken wanted to go live, no matter what, and Chad would have wanted us to.
We felt we owed it to the audience, and we've had some changes to KFYO. If those of you remember the late great Ron Grand, who was extraordinary. He produced shows, plus he also did production. Great golden voice, and he ended up being voice for Fox News on the weekends. Mm-hmm. And then we had the golden voice of Dave King, passed away from the morning show, and then thankfully with Tom we got through his stuff pretty well, but we kept the show going. I did 6 months for Tom on that while he recovered, and sadly enough, we have to send our condolences out for Chad Hasty, and that's kind of what we didn't really expect it, and we just Chad was he was part of the family. We were just dumbstruck this morning. It was it was kind of zombies when we all kind of got met and announced to the staff what had happened. Everybody just a lot of tears and just a lot of just disbelief what was going on, and we knew Chad would want us to be on with the audience because you might not know Chad like we did, but we know that you're grieving similarly like we are, and Chad would appreciate the condolences.
806-680-2790 is that text line. We probably won't get them all, folks, but I'm going to try. 760 says, condolences to his family and to all of you, his work friends. I'm heartbroken for you. Chad leaves a giant hole in so many people's lives. You got that right. This last year, I've noticed Chad speaking more and more about his faith in Jesus Christ. Folks, I'll say this, and you'll hear me probably say it again. Chad was a believer. He had a faith in Jesus Christ. If you're a believer, you will get to see him again. He had, I'm going to pause there. He had some great things happen in his life. He got to know the Lord. He got to hold a newborn baby that you're going to have to take.
Yeah.
He
got
to do that.
Adopting, foster to adopt. And, Chad, is with the faith and the adoption and the show doing well and having
finish this texture
having like I said, strong belief and he was able to do a lot of things with his professionally, and I think that was
and that's the thing, and this is a tribute to him. This is a thing that doesn't come across in the radio. He was a very loving and caring individual.
Sure.
And the things that they went through, I mean, just the unbelievable hoops that he and Jennifer had to jump through to even foster a child, and they were looking to adopt, and they have a tremendous amount of love to offer, and so he got to hold a newborn baby. He got to get thrown up on. He got to get poop on him. He got to do all those things we talked about, but he got those experiences. And so just to wrap that up, Texter, he says, as believers we can be encouraged. We will see him again. Until then, press toward the mark for the prize of the high calling in God and Jesus Christ. Philippians 3:14. Thank you so much for that. We do need to take a break. We'll do that right quick. 806-680-2790 is that number if you'd like to send us a text. We'll do the best we can to get them all out there. Ken and Steve on the air tonight on a special edition as we remember Chad Hasty. Back in a moment.
I looked out this morning and the sun was gone. Turned off the music to start my day.
The Chad Hasty Show can be heard all over West Texas. Weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m. Tune into News Talk 95.1 and 790 KFYO in Lubbock. News Talk 940 in Amarillo. News Talk 94.7 and 1470 KYYW in Abilene. And in Wichita Falls on News Talk 96.3 and 1290. The Chad Hasty Show. Make it a part of your drive home. Weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m.
My mom has taken up going to the park to practice yoga.
My dad's going to a club, but not a book club, a salsa club.
Finding new hobbies comes with age.
My mom has started getting lost and not knowing where she's going.
Becoming lost or disoriented doesn't. Confusion with time or place may be a sign of Alzheimer's. An early diagnosis can help improve the quality of life for your loved one. Learn the warning signs of Alzheimer's at 10signs.org. Brought to you by the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Live local talk on Sundays. Reason, Religion, and Reality. A radio project of the Constitutionalist Society, LLC. Reason, Religion, and Reality brings you a panel of constitutionally minded, liberty-loving patriots covering topics from Supreme Court decisions, government actions including curriculum in schools, and attacks on the church. Catch the shows Sunday noon to 2 on News Talk 95.1 and 790 KFYO. Listen online at KFYO.com or on the KFYO app. Reason, Religion, and Reality.
This is Shannon Bream. Join me for Fox News Sunday as we sit down with a diverse and dynamic group of guests featuring interviews with political, business, and public affairs newsmakers from the U.S. and abroad. All part of the Sunday political block from Fox News Radio. Fox News Sunday.
Every Sunday evening from 5 to 6 right here on your home for the news and talk of West Texas. News Talk 95.1 FM and 790 AM KFYO.
I'm Janley Painter with your Fox True Crime Minute. The legal battle for the son of a Hollywood legend intensifies in Los Angeles. 32-year-old Nick Reiner, the son of acclaimed filmmaker Rob Reiner, has pleaded not guilty to the first-degree murders of his parents and is scheduled for a court appearance today. Reiner is accused in the brutal December 14th stabbing deaths of his father Rob and mother Michelle Singer Reiner inside their Brentwood home. Currently held without bail at the Twin Towers Correctional Facility, the 32-year-old faces harrowing special circumstance charges of multiple murders and personal use of a knife. The tragedy has rocked the entertainment world, coming just months after the famed director of When Harry Met Sally and The Princess Bride was celebrated for his legendary career. Prosecutors have not yet detailed a specific motive, though court records highlight a history of mental health struggles and prior police visits to the family residence. Today's hearing is expected to set the stage for a preliminary trial. There's more on this story at foxnews.com or subscribe to the Fox True Crime Podcast. I'm Janley Painter with your Fox True Crime Minute.
Let's talk about Legacy Box. Is your closet cluttered with old home videos and photos that rarely see the light of day? Those items hold priceless memories, but they're fading away fast. If you can't watch or share them, what's the point?
Legacy Box makes digitizing your memories easy. Just pack up your old tapes, film, and photos, and they'll take care of the rest by hand right here in Tennessee. You'll be able to see and share them again once they're in the cloud, ready to watch on your phone, on your smart TV, your computer, or tablet.
We've both relied on Legacy Box to digitize photos and movies from back in the day. They do such a great job. They'll do the same for you. Right now, Legacy Box is running a $9 videotape sale. That's 65% off. At this price, this is the best time to convert your entire collection. Join the 1.5 million families who have already trusted Legacy Box. Visit legacybox.com/buck to shop their $9 tape sale. That's legacybox.com/buck. Legacybox.com/buck.
Mark Midnight, live
Saturday nights from 10 to midnight
on News Talk 95.1 and 790 KFYO.
Hey, welcome back to the Chad Hasty Show, 806-680-2790. If you'd like to send us a message, Steve Evans, Ken Corbin on a very special memorial edition of the Chad Hasty Show as we say goodbye to Chad Hasty. Of course, if you're just joining us, Chad passed today. We've lost a great broadcaster, and so many are joining us to help us memorialize him. Joining us on the phones, Scott Braddock on the Chad Hasty Show. Scott, good evening.
Good evening. I heard y'all talking to Jody earlier and trying to get him to do the ooh-wee. I was thinking about how when I first started doing the show with Chad years ago, Jody was the one calling me to put me on the air. And what a character. I have been sitting here collecting my thoughts.
Jody's way better in person. I mean, he really is.
I've never met him in person.
Yeah, in color, Jody's is really good.
Y'all are going to have to make that happen. You'll have to make the connection so I can meet him. But in person, the thing is, I have spent almost all day thinking about this. It's one of those days where you wake up to a gut punch. I first heard about this from let me say this as one of the many compliments that I want to give our dear friend. I heard about this from a political insider before I heard it from y'all because the news about his death was rippling across the political world because he was part of it. He was ingrained in it all across the state. And I heard y'all mention earlier in the program that, as far as a broadcast talent, he was a consummate broadcast professional. He and I have this in common. And I'm not going to speak about him in past tense. I refuse to do that. He and I have this in common. We're both radio nerds. We love radio. And I heard y'all say that he would have been on par with a Rush Limbaugh, the king of conservative talk radio. And get this, and think about, degrees of separation. As I'm sitting here collecting my thoughts, one of the people who reached out to me, and my phone has just been blowing up all day from people reaching out from across the state who he touched through his work, and people, offering their condolences and all of that. I could just sit here and scroll the texts all night and read them to you. I'm sure you're getting, and as you've said, you can't read them all. But Mark Davis, the dean of Texas Talk Radio, reached out to me a little while ago. And think about it. This is the guy who used to fill in for Rush Limbaugh on his national program, right? And he reached out just to say, I know that y'all were close, and I'm thinking of you. And I told Mark that I was putting my thoughts together. So here's what I've got. And I don't know that any of this is original, but I can tell you it's all heartfelt. When I think of Chad and think about the kind of broadcaster, the kind of work ethic that he brings to what we all do, which is to try to be entertaining and informative. Chad was steady, steadfast, thorough, thoughtful. Y'all mentioned his style of, the way that all of these elected officials across the state trusted him to at least give them a fair shake, even if he didn't agree with what they were saying. If y'all listen to our segments over the years, Chad and me, we didn't always agree, but it was always professional. That didn't matter. But I'm going to try to not get too emotional about this or break down on the air. I was just texting with a friend about this. But I do want to say this because one of the messages y'all got had to do with it. We would do our show, we would do our segment once a week, right? And he and I would text all the time. Y'all know that Chad was just an incredible communicator. If you text him, he would text right back, right, about whatever it was. And so every time that we were about to do a segment, we would text and decide what the topics were we were going to talk about. And I had texted him a few months back. And I said, hey, what do you want to talk about on the show today? And he just called me immediately. And he said, hey, man, I just want you, and this was a private conversation, but I'm going to share it now because it's being talked about.
We got about a minute, Scott.
Yes, sir. I can do it. He called me and he told me about how he and his wife were going to be fostering the baby. Mm-hmm. And I could tell in his voice how excited he was to be a brand new dad.
With everything.
He was so happy with everything else he had going on that they were going to do that. And like y'all said, he was just full of love and a good person. And I'm really going to miss him.
And so are we. And then sad that you and I get to be on the air together 2 days in a row. But but he thought the world of you, I know, and that was one of the highlights of the week was when he was able to interview you about what was going on in Texas politics.
Well, the highlight of my week is when I get to talk to y'all in West Texas, and I'm going to miss Chad a lot and not being part of that.
Thank you so much, Scott, for coming on this evening. It was good to hear from you and join us on this very special edition of the Chad Hasty Show right here on the Texas Town Square Media Network. Steve Evans, Ken Corbin, as we wrap up the first hour. And remember our friend, 806-680-2790 is the number to text the show. If you'd like to send a message, we'll do our very best, but send it anyway. Let us know you're out there. We'd love to hear them. Quick break, news and weather. Back with hour 2 of the program in just a moment.
The Chad Hasty Show, a presentation of Texas Town Square Media Network. The views and opinions expressed during the Chad Hasty Show are not necessarily the views of this station's staff, management, advertisers, or Town Square Media.
Hey, it's Ben Ferguson. Don't miss my show every Sunday evening at 6 o'clock. It's everything you need to know about the latest government decisions that define our country, from illegal immigration to defending our Constitution. It's all here on the Ben Ferguson Show, Sunday evenings from 6 to 9 on KFYO.
Fox News Sunday with Shannon Bream. Every Sunday evening from 5 to 6 p.m. right here on News Talk KFYO.
News Talk 95.1 and 790 KFYO, KFYO, and K236CP Lubbock, and on the KFYO app.
The record shutdown is over. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. After President Trump signed a bill that funds most of the Department of Homeland Security, the House passed the measure earlier today.
After sitting on it for weeks, the House passed the Senate DHS funding bill, which funds all of DHS except for ICE and CBP. Republicans will instead fund those two agencies in a 3-year budget reconciliation bill, which allows them to bypass Democrats. President Trump wants that bill on his desk by June 1st.
Fox's Bill Malugin in Washington. The House also passed a 45-day extension of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act just hours before it's set to expire.
Senators compromised, passing a 45-day extension after FISA skeptics secured declassified information about how the feds misused FISA. Other Democrats don't trust the Trump administration with FISA tools. FISA doesn't go completely dark if Congress failed to re-up it.
Fox's Chad Pergram on Capitol Hill. Federal prosecutors have released video showing the moment authorities say an armed man tried to storm the White House Correspondents' Center Saturday night in an attempt to kill President Trump. U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro says it shows Cole Allen shooting a Secret Service officer as he runs through a security gate packed with journalists, administration officials, and others.
The director says the officer who was shot returned fire, though he did not hit the suspect. Officials say shortly after 8:30 Saturday evening, Allen, knowing the president and first lady were in the ballroom, approached security and ran through the magnetometer. Secret Service Director Sean Curran says the suspect was stopped after that checkpoint and defends the security plan despite criticism over the hotel venue.
Fox's Davis Bunt in Washington. Allen was in court today. He did not enter a plea and will remain jailed for now while he awaits trial. Prosecutors have said they believe Allen fired the shotgun at least once and that a Secret Service agent fired 5 shots. America is listening to Fox News.
Hard work.
The U.S. Treasury just released its official financial report for 2025. Buried in it is a startling admission. By its own numbers, it appears the U.S. government is insolvent. When governments go this deep in debt, they print money, raise taxes, or cut benefits, none of which can help protect you. That's why people move part of their savings into physical gold and silver. Call Monetary Gold at 877-NOW-GOLD for their complimentary gold and silver guide. That's 877-NOW-GOLD. Call Monetary Gold now at 877-NOW-GOLD. Do it before the next headline, not after. Performance may vary. You should always consult your financial and tax professional.
Michael Berry, weekday mornings at 8:30 and weekday evenings from 10 to midnight on News Talk 95.1 and 790 KFYO.
In Lubbock, South League's weather forecast, temperatures are falling overnight tonight in the mid-40s and a 90% chance for rain to continue right into Friday morning. On Friday, the temperature is just around 50 degrees. The continued chance for rain over 80%. And then the rain chances decrease later this evening. The weather brought to you by Sonic and the new Sonic Fruit. I'm meteorologist Ron Roberts on Lubbock's official weather station, News Talk KFYO.
You got Mark Davis standing by.
Did I just say that over the air? Yeah, okay. Yeah. You're catching the back. Listen, we're just fluid this evening. Welcome to Hour 2 of the Chad Hasty Show.
We're just waiting for Nick to give us thumbs up. I wasn't
even thinking about I was up yet. It's Steve Evans, Ken Corbin.
We might need Connor to sit in for him.
Steve Evans, Ken Corbin in with you this evening on a special edition of the Chad Hasty Show as we say goodbye to our dear friend on his untimely passing. And nobody can really talk about Chad the way the person we have on hold now, Mark Davis, joins the Chad Hasty Show. Mr. Davis, welcome to the show. Thanks for calling in.
It is my absolute pleasure. It seems only just and right and proper that a show that gave me Chad's talents so that he could join and grace our listeners in DFW, the community that he came from, a son of Grand Prairie. Seems only right that I should appear on his frequency, especially in view of this enormous loss to our industry and the brotherhood of talk radio. And I figured you guys would be doing something. I've actually been listening for about the last hour, and it's just killing me, but I'm laughing, I'm crying, the pleasant memories, and just all you guys. We're all of us down here thinking about all of you guys up there.
Well, another Chad really it was an honor for him to be hosting your show, being on K-Sky, and it was one of those things he looked forward to. He always, whenever you get it set up, he come down my office and say, hey, guess what? And so I'll make sure we listen to you on the stream when he was hosting. Not that we don't listen to you, but enjoyed you when you were on. It was syndicated on Sundays and had, when you were on other stations, would listen to you also. But Chad, it was a great honor for him to be on your show.
It was always so funny when he would call me and he goes, hey, I need you to fill in on whatever day. I'm like, why? Well, so I'm filling in for Davis.
The dominoes fall.
The domino fall. You've had to do that yourself.
So we're glad to cover for Chad so he could be on your show.
Well, thanks for being part of the chain of events that made his talents available to us. The streets are not exactly filled with talk show talent, and I won't let anybody just anybody do this. And it was pretty clear to me. My producer Rhonda Moreland sent me a picture. Here's the thing: I was in a room with Chad precisely once. And it was when he came to do his show. I think he had some business down here in Metroplex, not sure what it was. It was in 2019, and there's a beautiful picture. Y'all can see it if you want to, on my X, my Twitter, Mark Davis, M-A-R-K Davis, or Rhonda's. And I met him. I'd been aware of him because his reputation preceded him. He had been, he's on the pretty short list of local shows in a state as vast as Texas with a lot of big metropolitan areas. It's not like there's 10 or 12 of us doing deep dives into state politics and local politics, and Chad's reputation was already deeply entrenched in that, so it was a real pleasure to welcome him into our building. And that was just to do his show back to Lubbock. He wasn't filling in for me at that time. I think that sort of lit the fuse of curiosity and interest. Wasn't long after that our management called Chad and said, would you like to fill in? And he was always so incredibly gracious in doing so. So by definition, when he's filling in for me, it means I'm not there. So the people who were working with Chad were people like Rhonda, my producer, Matt, our board op. And I'll say, if you win those people over, and if they enjoy working with you, you're aces. I mean, that's all I need to know.
Do you know that Chad, we had that very conversation, and that's after he did your show the first time, we talked about that, and he said, I think his people like me. And if his people like me, then this might be a real thing that's going to happen. He was so excited every time he had the opportunity to, just because it was his home audience. He loved your show. He loved your signal. And it was always so excited to do it that he said, I got to prepare. He prepared twice as much. And so I'd cover him at night because he knew he was going to be spent from preparing to do your program. But he loved doing it, Mark. It was a highlight of his day, his week for sure.
It's a Chad. He'd come back and say, after he did the show, the producer, he'd talk about how much he liked her and he said, it's great. And how much he liked doing it. And I said, you're not going to Salem, are you? You're not going to Dallas, are you? I said, don't tell me you're not doing that. I said, you can do your show here and then do your afternoon show, right? so I was trying to make sure that he didn't bold, but he really loved doing your show, and he would talk about it a lot. He'd even go on the air, tell the audience, out here about it. Chad's on 4 markets out here. Chad's the king of West Texas, and he was just proud to be able to call you friend. I know he said that many times.
Well, it was a joy and honor to know him, and it's funny because I guess especially in this modern world, you don't have to be getting together for coffee every week to be close to somebody, especially at this time and in our industry. And we were in touch a lot online, and we did talk on the phone every once in a while. And just about 3-4 weeks ago, he called me and literally said, it's not like we know each other real personally and real closely from being in the same town, but can I run a few things by you about life and radio and things? And I was just so honored to talk to him. I didn't want to tell him what to do or make decisions for him, but he had some thoughts about his future and the station there where he worked with you guys. And I'll just share that I told him that if you have coworkers you love and creative freedom and you're happy going to work every day and you come home and you sleep well at night, there's no price tag you can put on that. And he was very happy and very pleased to be with you guys. And while we're talking about shared opinions, I've literally just got off the phone just a few minutes ago with Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick. A lot of people saw my Twitter and Facebook post early. I waited for Speaker Burrows to put out something. I didn't want to be the person to break the news. And so after he did that late this morning, I went ahead and shared some thoughts in my social media, and a lot of people saw that, and so I've been fielding calls all day of people talking about Chad. My friend State Rep Jeff Leach actually told me about it during my show this morning, and the Lieutenant Governor and I were just talking about the kind of special, not just special broadcaster, but special person he was, the degree to which he cared about issues. He would come and broadcast from Austin, and Lieutenant Governor's actually on with me tomorrow, and one of the things we'll talk about is we'll do some recollections about Chad and the kind of work that he did and the importance of local broadcasters digging in and providing listeners, as I know he did up there in Lubbock, with the kind of personal information and personal interviews and kind of info that helps us be better informed Texans. And these are huge shoes to fill, and I was just incredibly honored to know him and to be a colleague of his.
Well, I know you were one of the guys that he tried to emulate and follow, and thought that's how the right way to do a show. Anybody can give information, but you've got to do it in an entertaining fashion, and you got to make it interesting for the audience. And and Chad, he tried to do that every day, like you do there on 660 in Dallas.
He succeeded, and I heard you guys make an observation about Rush, and I'll make it about Chad, and it's true of any of us who have managed to carve out any kind of success. None of us are successful because we're conservative. I would tell speaking engagements, Rush Limbaugh was not an enormous hit because he was conservative. There are conservatives I love, but I wouldn't listen to on the radio for 10 minutes. Success comes from knowing that it's radio, that it's broadcasting, that it's entertainment. And by that, I don't mean a circus or a juggling act. It has to be compelling. It has to be interesting. There has to be human relatability. People have to enjoy. Listen, we're in the car with people right now. We're in the shower, so to speak. It's different than newspapers and TV. There's a personal angle to radio that no other medium will ever have. And podcasts are great. They approach that. But radio's happening right here, right now, in the proud town of Lubbock. There are people listening to us right now, and it's like riding around with them. Chad did this, and nobody did it better. He had the personal touch and the gift of communication and a sense of humor to make it all work. And there just aren't that many people who can do that. And that's why he will never, ever be forgotten.
Well, Mark, this is, I don't make my living off of radio. I do it. I play it on TV, but, part time. But, this is, as you know, is a brutal business. It is very, very tough to create a show and I tell people this all the time, it's got to be an entertainment medium first. And that is a hard thing to do. And Chad had a very charismatic way of captivating an audience and working in politics and working in stories, but he could laugh and he could joke and he could entertain you while he was being serious. And it was just a very unique characteristic that just comes along once in a great while. And man, he had it. And
he did, and especially these days where there's so much bitterness and so much to argue about. And by the way, those arguments are necessary, and the issues can be heavy. But if you can plug into those things with a sense of goodwill, a sense of humor, not taking yourself too seriously, and the willingness to open your heart and your ears and your mind and your show to people of a variety of views. At this time when everybody's all cocooned up and balkanized out and yelling at each other, you disagree with me, so, the heck with you. His kind of outreach in our kind of medium it was becoming rare, and we'd better do our best to preserve it, because it's really a tonic for a difficult time.
Mark, I got to go to a break. I'll give you 30 seconds, last words for us. And again, thank you so much for joining us.
It's my pleasure. Listen, we've talked about officials and radio stations and coworkers. My thoughts and my heart are with his wife, that baby, those people driving around in Lubbock right now who made him a part of their day, just real people who Chad reached out and touched, his family, his community. Every prayer of everybody who knew him is with you guys. We're lifting up a prayer. We know where Chad is right now. He's with the Lord, and that gives us comfort at this time.
Thank you so much. The mighty Mark Davis joining us on the Chad Hasty Show, Ken.
And Mark, Chad would be honored that you took time to call in and share thoughts about him.
You bet, man. Love you guys.
We'll take the break.
Thanks, sir.
806-680-2790, that text line. We'll do our best to get to him. We're not going to, but send them in. We want to hear from you. We do read everyone. Quick break. We'll be right back.
The Titan of Texas Talk Radio. The Chad Hasty Show.
Talking with newsmakers and about the issues that matter to you. The Chad Hasty Show, weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m. Chad's show is also digital with the Chad Hasty Show podcast. The Chad Hasty Show podcast can be downloaded on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, and the Radio On Demand page on KFYO.com. The Chad Hasty Show, all across Texas during your drive home, weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m.
Heads up, Texas.
So you don't hit my car when I'm sitting at a stoplight.
Heads up, Texas.
So I can ride my bike safely.
Heads up, Texas.
So I can make it across the street without getting run over.
Heads up, Texas.
So I don't have to write you a ticket.
Heads up, Texas. Because driving and using your phone is a bad combination. Talk, text, crash. Brought to you by TxDOT.
News, talk, weather, and Dark Midnight.
Saturday nights from 10 to midnight.
On News Talk KFYO.
Welcome back to the Chad Hasty Show, 806-680-2790. The number to reach the show if you'd like to send us a message, even though we may not get to it on the air. Send it to us anyway. We'd love to hear from you. Steve Evans, Ken Corbin, in studio with you this evening on a special edition as we honor the loss of our great friend and great West Texas broadcaster and political analyst, and we could give him so many titles, Chad Hasty. But there's one person that was there with him from the beginning, that helped him get started, that he worked for as a producer. Ryan Hyatt joins the program. Ryan, thank you so much for coming on with us this evening.
You got it.
Well, Ryan, I'm sure you've got plenty of stories that you could tell about Chad. Kind of you're in broadcasting where you're kind of known for some of the inside baseball talk, and I'm sure you've got some inside stories on Chad Hasty.
Yeah, I do. And today it's a struggle and a challenge to try to figure out which ones to share, about Chad Hasty. We talk about Chad Hasty, the broadcaster, and Chad Hasty, the radio guy, and all that stuff. And all I can think about today is Chad Hasty, my friend, and Chad Hasty, the kid that I knew when he first became my producer, and I think it was about 2002, and in through there. And that's what I'm thinking about today. It's not. And I love when Alan Corbin called in earlier today. The Sidewalk Warrior story, and stuff with Miller and everything else and all that. But, you know, I'm thinking today about a guy who had 25 different Major League Baseball hats so he could say he was the fan of the team that was winning.
Yeah, but he was he was, regardless of what was going on, he was always a Cubbies fan first, then the Rangers sometimes,
yes.
But you know, never an Astros, but Rangers, but Cubbies were his team.
Yeah, and when they won in, what was that, 16-17, I lose track. You know, the Cubs win every 100 years. We should be able to keep up with this. Yeah, I mean, Chad was flying the flag, the W, and everything
he
else.
He was ecstatic.
So, you know, that's kind of what I'm thinking about today with Chad. Just is all that, and just what a professional he. God, I don't want to say was. What a professional he is, and how he elevated radio and media, not just in this market, but around the state. And I was listening, you know, just a second ago, and, you know, I echo those sentiments that I hope people around Lubbock and West Texas realized how he was viewed around the state and beyond.
Without a doubt, like I referenced, you know, how many different media outlets would follow what Chad Hasty did.
Oh, yeah.
You know, because we can look where some of the streaming listeners come from, and it's all over the country, all over the state. We had, you know, large numbers of people that listen in Austin, Dallas, Houston, D.C., and it's amazing because there are people that, you know, knew Chad was going to talk about something important, and he was going to do it in an interesting and entertaining way.
Well, and not just the media. The politicians, the people on their staff that would be, you know, dipping in and going, okay, you know, how is this going to go? And I guess it's okay. I think I can say this, you know, that you know, Sean Davis there at the Federalist, that we would communicate sometimes. How did he get that interview? How did he get? I don't know, name a certain politician. How did he get him to say that? We can't get him to say that. How did he do that? And Chad was one of the best interviewers that I have had the pleasure of listening to in making his subjects, that's not the right word, but making the people he was interviewing feel comfortable. And I don't mean that in like a manipulative way. They trusted Chad because they knew he would ask a fair question, an honest question, and that he had a humanity about him, that it came from a good place, not a bad place, not a negative place, not I'm going to try to put you over the coals. That when Chad asked a tough question, it was because it was a question that mattered to the people who listened here on KFYO around the state, and that he humanized that. And he had a humanity about him that translated into the media more so, Ken and Steve, than anybody I've ever been around.
His style was very disarming when he would do the interviews. And that's very, very rare in this business, whether it's in a broadcast period.
Because it was honest. Mm-hmm. There was no gotcha. There was no, now, I think some people that maybe disagreed with his politics or otherwise might have tried to say that. No, that wasn't it. It was honest.
And Chad did KFYO, did Lubbock a lot, but with the network, you know, Chad was getting that same reputation in Abilene, in Wichita Falls, in Amarillo, with the local officials there when he would interview them there and being broadcast in those markets. Chad was getting known, not just, you know, Lubbock, and not known, you know, with the statewide in Austin or D.C. He knew, you know, the locals in these other markets that are on the Town Square network. You know, Chad had them, you know, believing in him and understanding where he was going and give him information that normally they wouldn't give anybody else.
Yeah, and he would give all of them a fair hearing, and even if they thought, you know, hey, he doesn't like my politics or he disagrees with my policies or otherwise, I think most of them came around to the idea that he'll give me a fair hearing, and that he's, that this audience that is listening right now is a great, highly motivated, highly engaged audience, that at least I get a chance to put that out there. I can't think of a better compliment to give somebody than that even people that maybe disagreed, policy-wise, wanted to be on his show. The smart ones, anyways.
Definitely.
We're going to have to take a quick break. Ryan, you want to hang out with us for a little bit?
Yeah, I got nowhere to go. I'm just waiting on the rain.
We're coming up, waiting on the rain, and it's time for us to check in with the news and weather. So 806-680-2790 is that text line. Again, we're not going to get to them, but at least we know you're out there. You can send us your thoughts right here on a special edition of the Chad Hasty Show. Steve Evans and Ken Corbin in studio this evening, remembering our friend. We'll take a quick break, check on that news and weather. Back with more. Ryan Hyde will be back with us in just a moment. Hey, don't go anywhere. See you in a minute.
The Chad Hasty Show, weekdays 5 to 7 p.m. Sound off during the show by sending Chad a text at 806-680-2790.
Pedal to the metal. Greased lightning. Burn rubber. Make tracks. Full gas. Whatever you call it, it's speeding. And a heavy foot can cost you a heavy fine. Or more. Speeding is a factor in more than 150,000 crashes every year in Texas. Many of them fatal. Slow down, be safe, drive smart, and take it easy. A message from the Texas Department of Transportation. When you see a car that's been in a bad crash, it's no accident. When it backs traffic up for miles, no accident. And if there's a fatality involved, somebody died. That's no accident either. A lot of the time, it was speeding. And it's no accident that speeding is a factor in more than 150,000 crashes every year in Texas. Many of them fatal. So slow down. Be safe. Drive smart. A message from TxDOT.
PSN headlines. The camp where 28 kids and counselors died in a flash flood last year says it'll stay closed this summer. Camp Mystic says more than 800 girls wanted to return, but they say they want to remove any doubt they heard concerns from grieving families. Governor Greg Abbott says the Department of State Health Services and Texas Rangers are still investigating. Some parts of Texas are dealing with another day of severe weather. National Weather Service says some parts of the Hill Country and I-35 corridor could see up to 6 inches of rain through Friday night. Local, state, and federal law enforcement say they're already working together ahead of the World Cup coming to Texas this summer. They say they've already arrested more than 130 people for drug and violent crimes. A judge could decide the future of Texas hemp rules by the end of the week. Lawyers for farmers say the Department of State Health Services overstepped its authority. The state says regulators are not banning hemp, they're just clarifying how it should be measured. The Supreme Court ruling on redistricting could make it easier for Texas to follow Louisiana. Texas GOP had already passed a resolution urging the governor to order new districts. With your Texas News headlines, I'm Alan Skaya.
Let's talk about your hair. If you're losing it and you have a desire to get it back, then Advanced Hair Restoration has the easiest, guaranteed solution. Their simple one-day treatment offers life-changing results. I've seen it with my own eyes. Guys, it's not magic, but close to it. They put hair where you need it the most, and bam, it grows. It's actually science. Advanced Hair has it all. Top-rated physicians, modern technology, and best of all, you get your very own natural hair that begins regrowing the very next day. Advanced Hair even guarantees it to grow for life. So schedule your free consultation now. 469-599-HAIR. If you qualify, you'll get $250 off and 250 free hair grafts. Advanced Hair has changed tens of thousands of lives, and they're the team I personally recommend. So don't wait. Check out the before and afters online for yourself. 469-599-HAIR or advancedhair.com. Advancedhair.com.
In Lubbock South League's weather forecast, temperatures are falling overnight tonight in the mid-40s and a 90% chance for rain to continue right into Friday morning. On Friday, the temperature is just around 50 degrees, a continued chance for rain over 80%. And then the rain chances decrease later this evening. The weather brought to you by Sonic and the new Sonic Fruit. I'm meteorologist Ron Roberts on Lubbock's official weather station, News Talk KFYO.
Tune in every Sunday at 11 on KFYO for Verdict with Ted Cruz, as Ben Ferguson and I bring you the latest on President Trump and the White House and how your lives are being defined by government decisions. On News Talk 95.1 and 790 KFYO.
Live local talk on Sundays. Reason, Religion, and Reality. Steve Evans and the Reason, Religion, and Reality crew are a panel of constitutionally minded, liberty-loving patriots covering topics from U.S. Supreme Court decisions, government actions across the spectrum, and attacks against the church. Reason, Religion, and Reality. Sundays noon to 2 on News Talk 95.1 and 790 KFYO and the KFYO app.
Fox on Tech.
The artificial intelligence models have gotten so much better that they are now building themselves. Both OpenAI and Anthropic said their latest models and tools were built largely by their own AI. CEO of Anthropic, Dario Amodei, said that by the end of the year, software engineers will not write any of the code. It will all be done by AI. And during a New York Times podcast, he mused that AI will boost GDP growth by 10 to 15%, but acknowledged that there will be major job disruptions. The fear within the community is unavoidable. A former head of Anthropic's Safeguards research team wrote, quote, "The world is in peril," as he announced his departure from the company. A researcher at OpenAI also left, citing ethical concerns. On top of those, entrepreneur Matt Schumer went viral with his post drawing comparisons with the advancements in AI to the eve of the pandemic. For Fox on Tech, I'm Madison Allworth, Fox Business.
Empowering West Texas with news that matters. News Talk 95.1 FM, 790 AM, KFYO.
It's the Chad Hasty Show.
Hey, welcome back to the Chad Hasty Show. 806-680-2790, the number to reach the show. If you'd like to send us a message, 1-800-687-0790. If you'd like to give us a call, we might be able to fit you in. But still on the line with us, hanging out, Ryan Hyatt on the Chad Hasty Show. Ryan, you got to have a funny story, even if it's a Chad the Friend story. It's a voice. It's an impersonation. He tripped and fell. I don't know. A good story.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite things about him was trying to get him to do the impersonations that he was so good at.
He had to be in the right mood to do it, but when he'd do it, he'd go off. The Bill Clinton ones. Oh my!
The Clinton was the best one by far. Which is amazing because he was like 10, 12 years old, maybe when Clinton got elected, and he had the Clinton nailed on that stuff. But, just how much fun, that's another thing. Chad Hasty embraced the joy of doing radio. Ken, you know what I'm talking about.
Definitely.
Steve, that he
absolutely
had so much fun doing the medium that gets lost. I see it today. We see it around, different aspects of the media. That Chad, I'm not saying the best 2 hours of his day were when he was on the air, but he enjoyed and embraced being with the audience and being with you folks that are listening right now and hearing from you and all of that. He embraced that like old school radio people, the great names that are associated with this radio station. He is etched in that, obviously. But I was fortunate, Ken, you knew him. I was fortunate to know some of them. He embraced that idea.
Well, we talked a lot about, just general conversation. He and I were, until they shut it down, we were in a whiskey club together, and, You sit and smoke cigars and go sample whiskey. You came sometime around. I think you may have come a night or two with us. And
don't tell my wife.
Yeah. Well, I didn't say which Ryan, but a Ryan might have come. But that was some of the conversations of are you gonna is this lifelong career? Are you looking to do something else or start businesses? And he would always tell me, I'm going to do this until it's not fun anymore. And it was fun, and he enjoyed it. And, of course, it's like everything. You have your good days and your bad days. You're going to have a day when you just don't feel good. And he was still going to pull that he was still going to put that product together and still put it out on the air, even in a bad day. And, and really, I think the first year of the launch of this time slot, I didn't fill in for him once. He did solid. Built the show and built best ofs, and then said, "All right, come fill in for me." And
he was Iron Man.
Yeah, and then when the baby and those things in life happened, I filled in for him more. But he had a happy balance between all of it, and he said, I can wipe vomit off and formula and go do a show, and he had a great balance with that.
And, this is one of those things for Nick. It's kind of part of the legacy that that you started with Chad being your producer, and kind of taught Chad how to give a producer a hard time. Nick's been the recipient of some of the jabs that Chad learned from you. And
I apologize, Nick.
And so,
or Rick,
Nick,
or whatever his name is.
Chad will kind of get on a tangent with Nick and funny, but he learned that from you, Hyde. And Chad, a lot of times, copying people is not that easy, but kind of taking it next level like Chad did, that was fun to watch, and Nick's kind of been the recipient of some of that. But Nick, he's taken it all in stride and laughed along the way. Good for Nick. But that's one of those things. So kind of always joking. I said I wasn't going to say this, but I'm going to anyway now. I said I'll kind of joke with Chad. I said, Chad, you finally got to where you've kept all of Hyatt's good habits that you learned, and you've kind of gotten rid of most of the bad ones.
Most of the bad ones.
I didn't say all of them. I just said most of them. So that
exactly.
But he was. I know he considered you a great friend, and was glad to have learned the ropes on being a host, from you when he first started.
Well, and I learned that the teacher student thing flipped real quick a long time ago, and I learned a lot more from Chad than he learned from me. I assure you of that. And if Rick is listening and producing, Rick's doing a great job. But I want to say something, if I can, that Chad had over the last year, or even more than that, and you guys know this, realized the platform he had. And I think, and I hope, one of the great enduring legacies that we will remember Chad for is embracing the adoption idea and becoming a spokesperson for that. And he was kind of reluctant at first. I think both of you guys understand what I'm talking about.
Absolutely.
And he was a little reluctant to use the platform he had, but then he began to realize what he had, and he was doing more of it. And that he understood that all the hard work that he'd done over 20 years in media had really put him in a position to do great things for children, for families, and for people. And I want that to be remembered and carried on.
Well, to that, Ryan, I think that if Chad was still with us today, in the next 2 to 3 years, you would have seen a little bit different shift in his style, in his focus of his show. I think you would see a little less political talk and more family talk. The whole process that he went through, the amazing blessing, and he knew it was a gift from God, straight to him, that his life was blessed and he lived a good life. And I think you would have seen a dramatic shift in what and I think it would only be better. I think that would have been probably the next level that he would have heightened his broadcast career to, and it would have given him he had new meaning and new purpose rather than just being known as a political talk show host. He wanted to be shift that into being an advocate too, and I think we would have seen just the whole new level.
And he was doing that, and it was beginning to translate, and he was beginning to embrace that in a way that we, behind the scenes, all of us had a chance to see, and it was exciting to watch what was transpiring, and I don't want that to end.
Well, he was adding a richness to his program because of that of the process and the decision to adopt and go through the process.
It's amazing what vomit will do to a person.
Well,
it changes a man.
Well, he was fully on board before he had to experience any of that, and I think he became very cognizant of some of the political hoops you have to jump through, through the adoption process, and then he was also very, very much aware of things that were going to affect him as a father and things that were going to affect his child. A lot of those issues really came home to him, and he was, like I said, there's a richness and expansion of his views that it's we watched on a daily basis.
And if you know his wife, if you know his mom and dad, you know where that came from.
Yeah, I talked to his dad, Mike, this afternoon, and spent some time with his family, and Mike especially, and you could tell exactly where Chad got his sense of humor, his love of life, and love of family. You definitely could tell that because Mike's pretty funny guy, and Chad. The apple didn't fall from the tree.
Massive amount of character there.
Just condolences go out to them.
Ryan, we got to go. Thank you so much for sharing this evening with us and being on the air. And man, thank you.
Thank you guys for doing this. I know how hard this show is to do. I know how hard it is for me to do it right now, and you guys are doing a credit and an honor, not just to Chad, but to the medium that he loved and embraced. And it's not easy to do these things, and I thank you for doing it.
We'll take our final break of this evening. Back in a moment.
I remember standing on the corner at midnight, trying to get my courage up.
The Titan of Texas Talk Radio, The Chad Hasty Show.
Talking with newsmakers and about the issues that matter to you. The Chad Hasty Show, weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m. Chad's show is also digital with the Chad Hasty Show podcast. The Chad Hasty Show podcast can be downloaded on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, and the Radio On Demand page on KFYO.com. The Chad Hasty Show, all across Texas during your drive home, weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m.
You wanted to be cool, which led you to smoking, which led to a pack a day. Then you met that special someone, which led to starting a life with them, which led to wanting to live longer, which led to quitting. Then you heard you may be at risk for lung cancer, which led you to getting a low-dose CT scan. If you smoked, get scanned. Talk to your doctor and learn more at savedbythescan.org. Brought to you by the American Lung Association and the Ad Council.
Bill Cunningham here, The Great American, every Sunday night with guest commentaries, phone calls, and more. We expose political obfuscation, ridiculous immigration policies, and absurd government spending that causes more problems than it solves. The Great American experiment continues as we fight like warrior poets for the soul of this great country of ours. Be part of this action every Sunday night with The Great American, Bill Cunningham.
Bill Cunningham, Sunday nights at 9 on News Talk KFYO.
This is House Call for Health. It may soon be impossible for some British citizens to purchase cigarettes or other tobacco products. Parliament passing a bill that would put cigarettes out of reach for future generations. That legislation still needs approval from King Charles III, a required formality before taking effect. It would ban anyone born after December 31st, 2008 from buying cigarettes. Right now, it's illegal to sell cigarettes to anyone under 18 in the UK. The legislation would also allow the government to regulate tobacco, vaping, and nicotine products, including flavors and packaging. The number of people who smoke in Britain has declined by 2/3 since the 1970s, but official figures show more than 6 million people still smoke in Britain, and it causes more than 80,000 deaths a year. New Zealand passed a similar law a few years ago, but it was later repealed. For more health news, go to foxnewshealth.com. House Call for Health. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News.
Sunrise LBK with Tom Collins and Matt Crow.
Thank you, God, for not raining on my open trench. Now let it roar. Yeah. Why are you rolling your eyes? I'm giving thanks, and you're leaning up on one cheek and giving me the stink eye.
When will the trench be filled?
The trench shall be fulfilled.
They're coming over today to sign off on it?
Well, yeah, the inspectors come this morning.
What time is the inspector coming?
Well, I'm not exactly sure. The electrician's going to be there before 8. If the inspector comes and the electrician is not there, then they turn around, they red tag you, and you got to pay a fine.
Oh, good. Okay, so if I can delay the electrician getting there.
I'm not telling you who he is or where he's coming from. We're going to fly him in on a helicopter. He's going to jump out of the helicopter with a parachute.
And the codes person gets there when?
Well, we don't know. They could come at 8 o'clock. They could come at 8:30. They could come at 11:30.
To put you under surveillance.
I'm already under surveillance. What are you talking about?
Sunrise LBK, weekday mornings from 6 to 8:30. News Talk, KFYO. West Texas is a big place with long roads, longer drives, and a whole lot of space in between. From early morning commutes to late night drives, we're in your truck, your car, and your headphones, always keeping you in the loop. Local issues, national headlines, traffic, weather, and sports. If it's happening here, we're talking about it. Always remember that you've got company on the dial with News Talk 95.1 and 790 KFYO.
Don't miss the weekend with me, Michael Brown, every Saturday evening from 7 to 10 on the station bringing you the news and talk of West Texas for over 97 years. News Talk 95.1 and 790 KFYO.
Welcome back to the Chad Hasty Show. If you want to send a final text, we're not going to get to him. Ken will try to read some maybe tomorrow evening when he's on. Well, I'm going to read every one of them, but we're going to do just some final thoughts. We've got about 6 minutes. Ken, I'll split it with you. Your final thoughts.
Well, we're going to talk a lot in the future about legacy, and Hyatt made a great point about, Chad and his passion for adoption is going to be one of his legacies. And I think the example that Chad set for talk radio, not just in Lubbock, but in Texas in general. You heard Mark Davis talk about Chad and how much, Chad meant to him. And here's a guy from West Texas on 4 stations in West Texas, and he's up there with the big boys that had national shows, and they revere Chad. And so that tells you, what kind of talent we had. Chad wanted to stay here, and I was proud that here, KFYO and the Town Square Network, that we were able to provide a platform for Chad. And we're going to try to keep the platform going because we feel it's important, but we're going to honor Chad properly, and it may not take, a whole, couple of shows, but we'll definitely reference Chad in the future going on. And RIP Chad. We're going to miss you, friend.
Oh, this is the hardest show I've ever done, Ken. I can't think of anybody I would rather be on the air with right now than this. I do want to say real quick, Chad was a friend of the Young Republican groups, was a member at some point, and they are one of the groups is doing a crawfish cook tomorrow, and it's going to be, we've moved the venue over to the Wolforth Clubhouse at 5 o'clock, 5 till we run out, $20 a plate. You can come out and support the local Young Republicans group. Going to be a lot of candidates and speakers and people over there. Ken's going to hold the fort down here on the Chad Hasty Show. And so what I want to say is to our wonderful and faithful listeners, Chad's audience, we don't know where we're going. We don't know where the show's going. It's up in the air, but Ken's going to be on tomorrow. State Representative Carl Tepper's on Monday. With luck, I'll see you again next week, and we're going to figure it out. But stay with us. We still it's the same coverage. It's the same great station. It's the same great network. It's just a little bit different person, and there is absolutely no way that we can fill Chad's shoes. But in order to honor him and honor what he built and the legacy that he created, in my mind, is just to keep going with it. As long as they will let us go with it, and we'll figure out. We're going to all figure out together what it's going to be. But as Chad would tell you, I'm going to tell you that thank you to the listeners, because without listeners, we don't have a radio program. We don't have advertising. We have listeners that hear about a product, about a store, about something that Chad talked about, or you hear on KFYO, and they go patronize those businesses. This is still a local hometown family that as long as we can hold it, and it's a community. And so thank you so much to the listeners that have supported Chad and watched him grow into a great broadcaster and watched him grow into a wonderful place in heaven that was prepared for him. Godspeed to him. I'm going to miss him. Ken, this was the hardest 2 hours of radio ever.
Most definitely. And with Chad and you and Cole Shooter that has filled in, Carl Tepper, Nick and Jody and Alan, and that have all been a part of the Chad Hasty journey. And here at Town Square and KFYO, we appreciate the listeners. We know you've stuck with Chad Hasty and the various iterations of the Chad Hasty show as we kept would move it around, improve it, and Chad would add different elements to it. And we just hope that we can, in the future, live up to your expectations and honor Chad properly.
As my old co-host, the late Mallory Miller, my dear friend, would say, this was graduation day for Chad. Don't be sad. Don't weep. We're going to miss him. We're going to feel a hole in our hearts. But he got there, and he made it. Sooner than he wanted to. Sooner than we wanted him to. But he made it. And I have no doubt that I will see my friend in heaven one day. And I hope they let him take his open road hat. I hope he got to take that with him, or at least his heavenly version of it. So that's how I expect to find him. His health restored, his life restored, basking in the glory and the place that the Lord prepared for him. Chad Hasty was a believer. And I believe, absolutely, and I believe that I will see him again. So this wraps it up, folks. This is again one of the hardest 2 hours of broadcasting I've ever done, to say goodbye to someone who gave me my break in radio. Chad Hasty is the one that got me into radio. I started on his Saturday show, and without him, I wouldn't be here with you today. So enjoyed being with you today. Always do. You're listening to the Chad Hasty Show on the Texas Town Square Media Network. I'm Steve Evans. That's
Ken Corbin. Steve, thanks for being on today. Tomorrow might be a little easier, but we'll get through your text messages and calls, and we'll make it through, and we'll regroup for next week.
Hey, for Chad Hasty and all our friends out there, I hope you have a great evening.
The Chad Hasty Show, a presentation of Texas Town Square Media Network. The views and opinions expressed during the Chad Hasty Show are not necessarily the views of this station, staff, management, advertisers, or Town Square Media.